The Galactic Academy of Interspecies Advancement was nestled in the low orbit of Zalithra, a silver moon ringed in electric auroras. It was the kind of place where species boasted lineage in centuries and measured intellect by cranial surface area. Among the scaled, feathered, silicon-bodied, and gelatinous, one figure stood out like a rusted nail in polished glass. Ethan Gray, human, Terran-born, spine straight, and perpetually unfazed, sat quietly in the second row, arms folded across his academy-issued uniform. His expression was unreadable, not because he hid it, but because no one bothered to learn human microexpressions. To most of his classmates, he was a curiosity. To a few, a joke. And to Varnix, he was sport. "Do your bones really break that easily?" Varnix drawled, reclining in his seat like a sunbathing lizard. His scaly lips curled in a smirk that exposed a row of needle-like teeth. "Or is that just dramatized for your entertainment feeds?" T'Challa clicked her mandibles in amusement, her multifaceted eyes gleaming. "I saw one vid where a human broke their femur trying to ride a synthetic animal. For fun." A low ripple of laughter passed through the classroom, punctuated by the gelatinous wobble of a Glern student trying to imitate a scream of pain. Ethan remained silent. He had learned that anything he said, even if true, was often met with a fresh round of mockery or disbelief. Ms. Jurel, the instructor, swirled into the room on webbed limbs, her gelatinous gown rippling with color changes that indicated barely contained exasperation. "Enough," she said, voice like water trickling over stone. "If you've all finished wasting oxygen, we can proceed." But Varnix wasn't done. "Instructor, as part of comparative biology, shouldn't we experience the human world? You know, see the primitive in his native mud puddle?" Ethan's fingers tightened slightly against his sleeve, but he said nothing. Ms. Jurel tilted her head. "As it happens," she said, with the dangerous tone of someone about to enjoy something unpleasant, "your sarcasm aligns with the curriculum." A holographic projection shimmered into life behind her, Earth, spinning slowly in rich blue and green. Storm systems curled like ancient spirits across its surface. A hush fell over the room. "In accordance with our Xenocultural Immersion Program," she continued, "you will be spending the next cycle on Earth, hosted by the Terran Peace Authority. You will observe firsthand the species that has survived 12 planetary wars, countless plagues, and extinction-level climate events, with no outside help." The silence deepened, and then Varnix scoffed. "How quaint. Perhaps we'll see them clubbing rocks together. Or ingesting toxic plants for pleasure," T'Challa added. Ms. Jurel ignored them. "Pack accordingly. Earth is not your cradle world. It does not care about your noble bloodlines or your molting seasons." She turned to Ethan. "Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Gray?" Ethan stood slowly, his expression calm but unreadable. He glanced at his classmates, locking eyes with Varnix for a beat longer than necessary. "Just this," he said, voice even and quiet. "Try to keep up." That was the first time the class went truly silent, not because they were afraid, but because they didn't know how to interpret what they'd just heard. The Academy transport bay buzzed with preparation over the next day. Ethan moved with quiet efficiency, checking each compartment of his rugged backpack with the precision of someone used to needing every item. The others packed as if going to a theme park, portable drones, tasting kits, self-cleaning robes. Varnix approached him just before boarding. "Seriously, Gray. Do you expect us to be impressed by rocks and dirt and your famously unpredictable weather?" Ethan gave a faint shrug. "You'll see." They boarded the dropship, the windows dimming automatically as they exited the Academy's artificial day-night cycle and entered the void. As the vessel descended through Earth's upper atmosphere, turbulence hit, a slap of dense, moisture-rich air. Several students flinched. One clutched their abdomen, disoriented by gravity shift. Ethan looked out the window, watching the clouds swirl below. The view cleared. The Earth revealed itself in motion and madness, volcanoes bleeding steam into the sky, oceans churning under furious winds, forests sprawling in chaotic beauty. Thunderstorms marched across continents, like gods with tempers. And everywhere, life, swarming, shifting, climbing, surviving. The alien students leaned closer to the glass, some murmuring in awe, others frowning in confusion. One asked, "Is it always like this?" Ethan didn't turn around. "This is a calm day." The ship touched down on a raised platform surrounded by dense jungle. A humid breeze swept through the open hatchway, thick with scent, sound, and something else, an undefinable presence that made every alien's skin bristle. Ethan stepped onto Earth's soil with a practiced breath, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly. Behind him, Varnix hesitated. Already, the field trip had begun. And Earth was watching. The air hit them like a wall, thick, hot, alive. Varnix staggered the moment he stepped off the ramp, claws slipping slightly against the damp soil. T'Challa hissed, flaring her gill vents in protest as Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere flooded her body with more stimulus than she was designed to handle. Ethan walked ahead without pause. The landing platform was surrounded by what looked, at first glance, like chaos. Trees towered overhead in gnarled clusters, their canopies choking the sunlight into shifting patterns. Vines slithered from above, draped like serpents. Insects buzzed, not melodically, but with the sharp, industrial hum of tiny machines. The jungle pulsed with an energy none of the visitors could quite name. Their guides stood waiting. Dr. Lena Hargrove looked like she'd been carved out of the environment itself, tall, sun-scarred, hair bound in a utilitarian braid, and eyes that had clearly seen things clawed from nightmares. She wore a lightweight, armored vest and carried a multi-purpose rifle slung across her back like it was part of her spine. "You the tourists?" she asked flatly. "We are xenocultural students of..." Varnix began. She cut him off. "Good. Stay behind me, stay alert, and if I say run, don't ask why." No one laughed. Dr. Hargrove tapped a small device on her hip. A floating orb, Z Unit 5, rose beside her, scanning the group with a soft chime. "Vital stable, though your systems are overcompensating. Oxygen's gonna feel like a drug. Keep your head." They began their trek into the jungle. Earth didn't make it easy. The ground was uneven, roots twisted like traps, leaves the size of shields slapped at exposed skin, and strange sounds echoed from beyond sight. Clicks, howls, the deep groan of something massive moving far away. T'Challa grumbled. "Why does everything feel like it's trying to touch me?" "It is," Ethan said without turning. "Earth's not passive. It explores you back." The group reached a clearing where a troop of capuchin monkeys eyed them from the trees. One, emboldened, dropped onto the path, scurried forward, and snatched Varnix's translator right off his belt. Varnix froze. What is it doing?" The monkey sniffed the device, chattered, and hurled it into a ravine. Dr. Hargrove chuckled. "Welcome to Earth. You just got mugged." Laughter erupted, but this time, not at Ethan. It was directed at Varnix, now fuming and tongue-locked. As they pressed deeper, the jungle only grew denser. At one point, T'Challa strayed from the path to inspect a glowing plant and immediately got snagged by a web of spiked vines. She screamed, antennae twitching in panic. Ethan reached her first. With no hesitation, he pulled a survival blade from his boot and sliced through the entanglement with 3 precise motions. "Don't touch unknown flora," he muttered. "Earth doesn't do harmless." T'Challa looked at him, breathing heavily. "Why aren't you afraid of it?" Ethan cleaned his blade on a leaf and sheathed it. "Because I grew up in it." They reached a rocky outcrop where the view stretched across a vast valley. Herds of creatures roamed below, some massive and armored, others swift and sleek. Predators stalked silently. Birds with iridescent feathers shrieked overhead. Everything moved like it had a purpose sharpened by hunger. "Earth," Dr. Hargrove said, gesturing out, "is one of the only known death worlds where the dominant species didn't just survive it. They domesticated parts of it and then turned the rest into stories." Z Unit 5 projected a hologram of early humans, hunched, fire-wielding, outmatched by their environment, yet thriving. "No fur, no claws, no poison glands," she continued. We made tools, tamed wolves, learned to track, hunt, build, destroy, and rebuild again. Pain isn't a punishment here. It's an instructor. Silence settled as the alien students stared out at the vista.
Some were in awe.
Others, like Varnix, were simply quiet. This world, Hargrove added, doesn't care what titles you hold back home. It doesn't negotiate. A sudden tremor rolled beneath their feet. The birds fell silent. Even the wind paused. "What was that?" whispered a Glurn student, half melted against a rock. "Not sure," Dr. Hargrove said, frowning. Z Unit 5 beeped. Signal disruption. One biosignature has moved beyond perimeter. A name flashed across the scan. Srivak. Small, curious, slow. Talia's eyes widened. He must have wandered off. He's not built for this. Dr. Hargrove's face darkened. Then he's in real trouble. Varnix stepped forward. "Send the drones to retrieve him." "There's too much interference in the canopy," Z Unit replied. "No visuals. No flight paths." Ethan was already tightening the straps on his pack. "What are you doing?" Varnix demanded. "Finding him." "You." The lizard's voice wavered just slightly. "You'll get lost." Ethan checked the wind, scanned the disturbed leaves, and began walking into the trees. "I grew up in a place where getting lost meant not coming back. Srivak still has time. I'll bring him back." Dr. Hargrove nodded once. "Take a calm line. Don't wait for us." As Ethan vanished into the green, the jungle swallowed him whole. Behind him, the group stood on the edge of something unfamiliar. Not fear of Earth, but fear that they were no longer the apex minds in the room. Not here.
Not now.
Not on his planet. The jungle deepened as Ethan moved with deliberate speed, his footsteps silent beneath the snarling hush of life all around. Every part of Earth's wilderness spoke in signs. A broken twig, a silence in the bird calls, a shift in the insect chorus. He read them like second language. Somewhere ahead, Srivak was alone, and that was a death sentence on this part of the continent. He tapped the comm, still tracking. Found a dropped ration packet. He panicked and ran. Dr. Hargrove's voice crackled through. "Direction. East-southeast. He's off the mapped path, heading into predator territory." A pause, then. "Clock's ticking. Bring him back fast." Ethan moved faster now, ducking beneath vines that would leave acidic rashes if touched, and hopping over roots large enough to trip a rhinoceros. The air was damp and humming with tension. A rustle to his left made him pause. Just a bird, startled. But the second sound, heavier, didn't retreat. It circled. He kept walking. No sudden movements. The shadow behind him followed for a few steps, then faded away. Earth respected confidence, or at least hesitation killed faster than courage did. 15 minutes later, he found Srivak wedged between two gnarled roots, his three eyes wide with terror. The little reptilian student's skin had changed color, a sign of near panic in his species. His translation device sparked weakly on his chest, likely damaged from a fall. Ethan crouched. "Srivak."
"It's okay."
"You're not alone." "Teach the trees growl." Srivak stammered. "Something touched me and didn't leave a scent." Ethan offered a hand. "That's a stick bug. Harmless unless you're a leaf." Srivak didn't laugh, but he reached for Ethan's hand anyway. "Can you walk?" A nod. Together they moved. Slowly, steadily. Ethan marked their return route with chalk he pulled from his vest. Bright orange, biodegradable, but visible enough for others if they needed to follow. Then the jungle roared. It was no thunderclap, but a deep, rumbling warning that rolled through the air like a living thing. The birds fled in spirals. A branch cracked behind them, massive, deliberate. Ethan's blood chilled. "Move," he hissed.
They ran.
Not blindly, but with purpose. Ethan zigzagged through the trees, dragging Srivak along the clearest path, avoiding thickets and deadfall. Behind them, something immense gave chase. They never saw it, only heard the crash of limbs and trees and breath like bellows. The forest had rules, and they'd trespassed too long. Up ahead, a ledge. Ethan didn't slow. He leapt, pulling Srivak with him. They dropped into a shallow ravine and crouched beneath a shelf of rock overgrown with moss. Ethan pressed a finger to his lips. The thing above moved past them, slowly. It was quadrupedal, judging by the footfalls. Heavy. Not curious, searching. It paused. Ethan didn't breathe. Then it moved on. 10 minutes passed before he whispered, "We're good." Srivak exhaled like he'd been holding air for a lifetime. How do you live like this? We don't.
Not all the time.
But some of us, we remember how. He tapped the comm located. Safe. Returning. The journey back was quiet, though the jungle still seethed. When they emerged into the clearing, the others surged forward in disbelief. "You actually found him," Tkala said, antennae flaring in surprise. Dr. Hargrove stepped forward, scanning both of them. "Vitals okay. Minor lacerations. No venom signs." Varnick stared at Ethan, something unreadable beneath his scaled features. "You risked your life." Ethan looked at him, tired but steady. "He's one of ours. That means something where I'm from." Varnick looked away. Later, around the fire pit Hargrove had lit with a magnesium starter. No tech, just technique. The group sat in exhausted silence. Even the mocking voices were quiet now. The jungle hummed outside the circle, alive and watchful. Tala finally asked, "Do you miss it? When you're up there, among the stars?" Ethan stared into the fire, the shadows dancing across his face. "I miss the honesty. Out there, everyone plays games. Status, politics, illusions. Down here, everything is what it is. If it wants to kill you, it tries. If it doesn't, it leaves you be." Srivak, now wrapped in a thermal blanket, whispered, "I thought humans were fragile." "We are," Ethan said softly. "We just don't let that stop us." Varnick sat in silence for a long moment, then shifted. "I mocked you, because I thought you were weak." "You weren't entirely wrong," Ethan said. "We are weaker. Slower, softer, easier to break." He met Varnick's gaze directly. "But we get back up. Again and again. That's what you never understood." The lizard nodded once, slowly. Across the fire, Dr. Hargrove cracked a rare smile. "Welcome to Earth," she said. "And now maybe you're beginning to understand what makes humans dangerous." The fire popped, sending sparks skyward like dying stars. No one spoke. The jungle listened. And far above, orbiting in silent vigilance, the Academy satellite continued recording, and perhaps for the first time, learning.